Hey, how's it going? My name is Brian, and you're watching Maraksot's Reviews and How-Tos. Welcome to my garage and to my part 2 of how to build a set of cornhole boards. If you have not yet seen part 1 and you would like to check it out, all you've got to do if you're watching on your PC is click this video that's magically floating in the air here next to me, and you can check it out there. If you are watching on a smartphone or tablet, then I'll put a link in the cards, which are these things right up here where that little eye pops up and the little banner comes across. Did you guys know those are called cards? I never knew that. If I didn't make YouTube videos, I don't think I would ever know that. As I said in part 1 of this video, I am making this particular set of cornhole boards for a couple of my favorite YouTubers. Paul with Paul's Hardware and Kyle with AwesomeSauce Network. And also as kind of a little bit of a tribute or shout out to their live show that they do every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time called Awesome Hardware. If you guys are into technology and like to know what's going on, you should check out their show. It's a whole lot of fun. I consider myself to be a bit of a tech geek, so I really do enjoy watching the two of them, watching their channels and their videos and learning from them, as well as some of the other tech YouTubers out there. I just like staying up on what's going on in the world of technology. And so this project here of making this set of cornhole boards is sort of kind of my way of reaching out to them and saying thank you for sharing their knowledge with me. For those of you that watched part 1 of this back when it first came out, I need to apologize to you guys for the extremely long delay between it and this video I'm filming right now. All I can really say is that between my day job and other responsibilities that I have, there isn't a whole lot of time left for making videos, but because I do really enjoy making videos and I love doing DIY projects and stuff like this, and I like sharing the things that I have learned over the years with other people that are, maybe now just kind of getting into this kind of thing and wanting to learn how to do it. So whenever I have the time, I bust out my camera and I get to work for you guys. So for those of you that have already watched part 1, you know that it was all about the actual construction process of building a set of cornhole boards. So in part 2 here today, I'm going to show you guys some of the things that I do and techniques that I use to design and paint up a set of custom cornhole boards. But before we can get to that, let's roll the intro. Even though you see me loading my roller up with primer right here, I want to say the actual first thing that I do, of course, is come up with the design that I want to have on my set of boards. But since I'm not quite yet ready to reveal that to you guys, what we're going to do first here is prime our boards with a nice base coat of white primer. I pretty much always just use latex paint because it's, easy to come by, it's relatively inexpensive, and probably the biggest reason is it's easy to clean up. On past sets of boards, I've used a brush for this, but this time around I'm going to use a foam roller because it gives a finish that almost looks like it was sprayed on. I don't want to have those distinct brush lines on these guys. Now, I know that watching a guy roll paint onto a set of cornhole boards is about as exciting as watching grass grow in the wintertime, so let's speed things up a little bit. When painting, I recommend wearing clothes that you don't care whether or not they get any paint on them. I was actually kind of playing with fire here as I painted the backside of the boards by wearing some of my somewhat newer clothes. Luckily, I completed the backsides completely unscathed. I then let that paint dry overnight, and the next morning turned the boards over and painted the tops. I didn't want to press my luck this time around though, and wore some older clothes that I've actually relegated to the purpose of painting and working out in the yard and stuff. Once the boards were all primed, I grabbed the legs and slapped some primer onto them as well. It's now time to let everything sit and dry for a while, so while we're waiting, I guess I'll finally unveil my design to you guys so you can check out this set of awesome hardware boards. My main goal for the design of these boards is I wanted to create a piece of original artwork to immortalize both Paul and Kyle. So I did what I know best, and that's pull out a piece of paper and a pencil and started sketching. After a few hours, I came up with these. After finalizing my drawings of both Paul and Kyle using the old-fashioned method, it was time to move on to the overall board designs. Back in late 2007 or early 2008, I purchased a copy of a program called Adobe Photoshop Elements 6, and although it is now a pretty old piece of software, it does everything I need and then some, so I haven't really felt the need to drop more money on a newer version. Anyway, with the drawings all ready to go, I scanned them into Elements, colored them, and then after hours and hours of trial and error, I came up with my final design. I used both Kyle and Paul's custom water-cooled PCs as inspiration for the color schemes and even incorporated some components of their PCs into the design on the board decks. It is going to take a lot of time and patience to pull these off, but I think they're going to look incredibly awesome once they are all done. So now that you guys have seen it, what do you think of my design? Leave a comment and let me know. With all the design work fully completed, I headed over to my place of employment to then print them up. I have a little bit of a confession to make. I'm pretty anal when it comes to painting on my cornhole board designs, and to be able to keep all of my proportions and everything exactly as I designed them, I like to print the designs up to the actual size of the boards and then use that as a template. Since I don't have a printer that can print them at full size, I print them out on the biggest printer I have access to, and as you can see, that one can't print them at full size either. But it does print on 11 by 17 sheets of paper, so it's a bit better than printing them on my printer at home. Using my work printer, it takes me 12 sheets of 11 by 17 paper for each cornhole board. I then have to trim some of the edges off of each sheet of paper so that I can then align the design and then tape all the different sheets of paper together. Once our primer has had sufficient time to dry, it's time to hit each of our boards with a coat of their individual base colors. I started things off with another coat of white on the backs of the boards because I have a little something special planned for these bad boys that I think is going to work best if I leave the backs all white. Once again, I had to let that dry overnight, and the following day it was the front side's turn. I started off with Kyle's board, throwing down some hot pink paint. I decided to go with spray paint for this because I was having trouble finding the right color at a reasonable price. And it took me 3 or 4 coats to get it fully coated, and after that I felt that it was still just wasn't the right color. So the next day I was back to the paint store to find a good hot line pink. Paul's board, on the other hand, was much simpler. I applied a coat of what I'm calling Arctic Panther White, and then it was time to let them dry overnight and try again to get the right shade of pink on Kyle's board. It turns out that finding a shade of pink that I was happy with was much more difficult than I had ever anticipated. After several hours of looking at different stores, I finally came to the conclusion that I was going to have to do a little mixing and create my own hot line pink. The 2 colors I finally decided to try mixing together were this carousel pink and a purple called Heather. For those of you that watch Kyle's channel and know a little bit about him, I think you will also find this pairing rather fitting. I mixed them together at a ratio of 6 bottles of pink to 1 bottle of Heather, which made a color that I was much happier with, and one that I hope Mr. AwesomeSauce himself will approve of. And holy cow, what an understatement when I said the spray paint wasn't quite the right color. Looking at the difference between the pink spray paint and the final color I came up with, the spray paint wasn't even close to being in the right ballpark. Now this is the part of this whole process that I find to be the most fun. Partly because this is where I get to wield a very sharp knife, but mostly because it's where things really start taking shape. I first mask off the entire surface of the boards with blue painter's tape. I then secure my full-size templates. You guys can't see me, but I just use the quotation fingers there when I said that. But anyway, I secure those onto the boards and then carefully use my knife to cut out the areas of the particular color I'm going to be painting for the day. This can be quite a tedious process, as I'm sure you can imagine. But this technique has always given me the results that I'm looking for. Lucky for you guys, time-lapse makes this whole process actually kind of enjoyable to watch. Once I've cut out the areas I want to paint, I peel the tape from those areas and then paint them up. As you've surely noticed, I've switched to using acrylic craft paints at this point in the project, and that's because I have quite a few different colors I need to paint for my designs, and these acrylic paints are easy to find in a wide variety of colors, and also, most importantly, very inexpensive. It takes me at least 2, if not 3, and even sometimes 4 coats with these acrylic paints to get full coverage, but thanks to the dry climate of the area I live, each coat dries pretty quickly, especially now that the heat of summer is upon us. I should mention that when you're doing multiple colors like I am here, with one color on top of another, you need to think of them as layers and plan out the order of the colors you're going to paint. You want to start with your bottom layer color and then move up to each successive layer. Be sure that you give each layer enough time to fully dry before taping over top of it and then cutting out your next color. With my garage sitting at around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, it usually only took an hour at the most before I was able to mask over top of a color I had just painted and then cut out the areas for the next color. Inevitably, you're going to make a few little mistakes and have some flaws here and there in the paint, so throughout the entire painting process, I like to keep some small paint brushes on hand so I can do that little bit of touch-up work along the way. I know the time lapse goes by pretty fast, but if you watch carefully, you'll be able to see me doing some of this touch-up work from time to time. Typically, it's after I finish painting a particular element. So I'm going to shut up for a while now and let you guys enjoy a nice time lapse as I repeat over and over again the process of masking things off, cutting out the areas that are going to be painted next, and then painting them. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the music and me hopping around the screen like a bunny rabbit on Red Bull. A bunny rabbit that can stand on 2 feet and wears clothes and is painting. Yeah, whatever. Enjoy! Any of you that have used masking tape before for a painting project know that the tape doesn't actually ensure you're going to get a sharp, clean line. You often have paint that bleeds under the tape onto areas that you don't want it. It looks terrible, and going back and touching it all up can be very, very time consuming and just an all-around pain in the butt. Thankfully, there is a way to greatly minimize and even eliminate the paint bleed, which I will show you guys right now. I want the underside of the rails to be black with some pink accents. I've already painted the portions I want pink and have masked those off in preparation for the black. I then take some of that pink paint and paint along the edge of the tape. What I'm doing here is basically sealing the edge of the tape with the paint. Now this pink paint will bleed under the tape, but that doesn't matter because the color bleeding under is the same color as what that part is going to be. Once that paint has had time to dry, our edge is all sealed and ready for our other color, which in this case is going to be black. It took me 3 or 4 coats of black to get full coverage, and once it was all dry, it was time to peel the tape. And as you can see here, I end up with a very, very nice, sharp, crisp line. I used this technique for everything on these boards. It wasn't 100% perfect all the time, but I imagine that it helped dramatically reduce the amount of touch-up I had to do. Once our paint job is fully complete, it's time to seal in all our hard work under a coat of crystal clear enamel. I just used some good old spray can stuff like this and sprayed it on nice and heavy to protect that paint job that I had just spent somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 hours or so working on. When using spray paint, it's a good idea to work in a well-ventilated area. After the mess and the stench of spraying the pink, I decided to take the boards outside this time for the clear coat. You'll also probably want to wear a mask or use something to breathe through so you're not inhaling all those paint fumes. Well, I guess unless you're into that kind of thing, which I absolutely do not condone. You want to keep the spray can fairly close to the surface you're spraying it onto to get good coverage. If you're too far away, the paint doesn't coat well, and most of it just turns to powder that wipes right off and gets all over everything in whatever place you might be spraying it in. I found keeping the nozzle of the can around 8 inches away from your surface is the optimum distance. It's important to keep the can moving so that you don't create unsightly puddles, and you also want to make sure you overlap your strokes a little bit to ensure nice, even coverage. On past sets of cornhole boards, at this point I would call these bad boys complete. But since this set is for Paul and Kyle, 2 of the biggest tech YouTubers out there, I think something a little extra is in order to make these boards truly fitting of individuals of their social networking prowess. There's one thing that seems to be all the rage these days when it comes to custom PC components, and that is RGB lighting. There are light kits out there specifically made for cornhole boards, but currently they're only available in single colors, or at least that was all I was able to find at the time. So to get these things lit up with RGB, a little improvisation was required on my part to bring my vision to life. So what exactly does one do when looking for obscure items? Well, you go to Amazon.com, of course. And no, this video is not sponsored by Amazon, nor am I in any way affiliated with Amazon. Well, not yet anyway. I've gone ahead and put a link in the video description for any of you interested in picking up some of these guys. These LED strips do come with adhesive backing, but any of you that have used this kind of stuff before know that the adhesive they use on these is absolutely terrible and doesn't stay stuck to whatever you apply it to for very long, so I purchased some cable clamps from a hardware store and used them to secure my LEDs in place. I positioned all the LEDs around the edge of the boards so that they will shine down towards the ground, and my hope is with the underside of the boards painted white, it will help reflect the light and give us a really nice underglow effect. I also wanted to light the hole up really well, so I positioned the lights around the hole in a manner where they all shine in toward the hole, making nighttime gameplay an absolute reality. Now, to get the lights working, I needed to install this little LED control box, as well as figure out a way to power everything. The control box came with the LEDs, however, there was no included way to power them. I, of course, didn't want to have to run a cord out to the boards because that would be totally lame, so I found this nifty little battery pack, which was also on Amazon, link in the description. Once you've loaded it with AA batteries, it simply plugs into the control box and you're good to go. As for mounting the battery pack to the boards, I had to once again do some improvising and figure out a way to attach them to the boards that would effectively hold them in place, but also allow the battery pack to be easily removed and the batteries to be replaced. When designing stuff like this, there's an old saying that I've found to be very helpful, and it goes something like this: "Keep it simple, stupid." And what could be a more simple solution than simply strapping the thing onto the board? While at the hardware store, I found these carpet caster cups, which I felt would make a great base plate to run a Velcro strap under, creating a very simple to use and effective battery pack mounting system. It was then time to load it up with batteries and take our RGB LED lighting for a test drive. And I must say that I could not be happier with the way these turned out. In my opinion, the lighting is totally worth the extra time and money it took to pull it off. And for those several few of you out there wondering, yes, I used both Paul and Kyle's Amazon affiliate links to buy the LEDs and the battery packs. Now that our custom painted awesome hardware cornhole boards are complete, it's come time for the sexy B-roll footage where I show off the finished boards up close, sitting out in the grass, looking pretty. I should probably mention that the red, white, and blue logo you see here is that of the American Cornhole organization, and that I am in no way sponsored by or affiliated with them either. I'm just a fan of the game, and I think their logo is really cool and felt adding it to these boards gives it that little added touch. And since I'm not selling these things, I hope that they won't sue me for showing it here in this video, but will rather see it as a sign of flattery. For those of you ambitious enough to embark on a project of this scope, I can't tell you exactly how much time it took me to build and paint these boards, because honestly, I don't know for sure, but I can confidently say that altogether this project has consumed well over 100 hours. When I started on these, I was anticipating it taking me between 50 and 60 hours to finish the set. Instead, I'm pretty sure it has taken me close to 50 or 60 hours or more per board. This paint job is far above and beyond anything I've done before, not to mention this is also the first time I've ever installed lights on a set of boards. At times it has been tedious, but overall it's been a lot of fun for me working on these things, and I am very, very happy with the way they've turned out. I hope you were able to learn something new in this video today, but if nothing else, I hope it has kept you at least mildly entertained. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel if you are not already, and remember to hit that thumbs up button on your way out and show me how much you liked it. If you hated this video and for some reason are still hanging around, I guess maybe it's because you don't have anything better to do, then by all means express your distaste and hit that thumbs down button now. If you have a question for me or would like to make a comment about the video, feel free to leave them in the comments section down below. Once again, I want to say thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you all next time.